There we go. I call the Planning Commission meeting for March 21st, 2024 to order, and we'll begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Jackie, will you call the roll?
Mr. Varga?
Here.
Mr. Crocker?
Here.
Mr. Haddon?
Here.
Mr. Perkovich?
Here.
Mr. Rossetti?
Here.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting, February 29th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Abstain.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. On tonight's agenda, we have one public hearing, and we will follow this format. First, the applicant will have the opportunity to explain what they would like to do at a particular location. Second, anyone wishing to speak in favor of this proposal will be given the opportunity. Finally, anyone wishing to speak in opposition will be afforded the time to do so, or some people may just have questions, and we will try to get those answers. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to remove number one, a conditional use permit to allow temporary event with live music at 8383 Tyler Boulevard to remove with prejudice.
So moved. Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Number two, we have a conditional use permit to allow outside dining and/or drinking, Lynn's Garden Cafe at 8351 Meadow Avenue. Is that applicant here? Please come up, give us your name and address. Tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Leon Sampat, LS Architects, 22082 Lorraine Road, Fairview Park, Ohio. And with me is the owner.
Hello, my name's Lynn Nguyen, and the address for the bakery is Lynn's Garden Cafe is 8351 Menor Eve at Menor, Ohio.
So we're proposing a one-story structure. The one-story structure will be approximately 2,380 square feet. We're looking at 17 parking spaces. We are looking for outdoor dining that would include 380 square feet. This is, I know there was a talk in our review letter staff report that the parking is deficient by 20 spaces. However, this is not a table service venue. It's actually it's the first Asian bakery. It's going to have Asian-inspired bakery and then additional Asian-inspired foods. But it's not a restaurant per se. It's more of a fast casual establishment.
I got you. So, yeah, let's just stick to the conditional use
Okay.
on the dining and/or drinking.
Yep. So that there is no liquor,
No.
but there are drinks, non-liquor, and there would be just outdoor dining at the front of the facility.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody wishing to speak for this proposal? Anybody wishing to speak against this proposal? This public hearing is closed. Kathy, anything from the administration?
We've noted 5 conditions for the conditional use permit for consideration.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 5 conditions.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. In new business, we have a preliminary site plan of a restaurant, Lynn's Garden Cafe, at 8351 Menor Avenue. Tell us a little bit about the restaurant now, please.
Yeah, so it is a Asian-inspired bakery. There will be other Asian foods, drinks, non-alcoholic. The building, it looks like a 2-story structure, but it is only a 1-story structure, approximately 31 feet tall. We are looking more for a stone veneer. I know in the report it was asking for a brick, but we do have a lot of windows kind of breaking up the facade. Part of the stone is more part of the Asian culture versus brick, which is more traditional American. So that's part of the reason why we want to keep that. They do like the coloring and the natural feel of the stone better. We do have a pitched roof with asphalt shingle. We do have some ephes highlights around the perimeter at the center. When we turn the, we actually have some color renderings of it too. I think further on. There we go. Yeah, so there's a lot of glass, and we do have, going back to the parking, we do feel that there's, the 17 spaces would be enough. This is not a table service restaurant, so I think if you look in the zoning code under a more of a business use, I think we do fall under the 17 spaces. It meets the requirements, but under a restaurant, it does not. So that's kind of how we're justifying the 17. And they do have 8 employees, but they're not all at one time. So it's off. Those are just total employees.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kathy, could you talk about the zoning district that's in a little bit and what we try to achieve there?
So the district itself is B2 general business, but it is part of the village core, the overlay that's been placed on certain parcels within that section of the city. And with the village core comes some very specific requirements. The intent and the premise behind the village core was to kind of maintain some historic value and character that is seen in some of the older buildings in the corridor. The best example would be immediately next door with the White Corning House building. I mean, there are some buildings that are a little bit newer, maybe not so much historic in nature, but the idea was to kind of maintain and enhance that historic feel as much as possible. So some of the things that the design guidelines talk about are with regard, first with the actual building setback. The proposed setback is at 75 feet. However, the way the guidelines discuss, it says new construction should be between 80 and 120% of the average setback distance of the front setback of buildings immediately surrounding that particular property. We've provided you with an average in your packets, which I believe was about 42 feet. The other issue to consider is the recommendation for parking, which is not to have parking in front along Menor Avenue and preferably along the side or rear of the building. The administration is recommending that they explore that option and look at another design that would bring the building closer to Menor Avenue. The minimum setback is 30 feet, and then put some parking to the side or rear while still respecting the buffer that should be maintained along the rear property line adjacent to the residential district. We still feel that could achieve their desired intent with the design, but maybe even pick up a couple of extra parking spaces in doing so. So that would be our recommendation, is to explore that and maybe present some options with the next submittal.
So, yeah, we actually did explore that prior to even coming up with this layout, and we can bring that to the next meeting and show you, but essentially we were ending up with about 10 parking spaces. So we were down 7 parking spaces, which functionally wouldn't work for this restaurant. And I think really what happens is it's a pie-shaped lot. Mm-hmm. So as you go back, it just gets narrow. So if the building's more in the front, by the time we get a road in there, yeah, I mean, something like that even is, I believe, how many spaces are there?
So we did it just to try before we made the recommendation. We're not asking you to hold to this particular design, but we just wanted to show that, could you actually make this work? We mimic the foundation footprint and then maintained the required access aisle for parking, and we actually got a couple more spaces out of it while still maintaining the buffer. Maybe we missed something, but that we just wanted to show for purposes of illustration here that this could be accomplished and still, and hopefully possibly meet that parking guideline.
Now, is the side yard setback 0? Is that permitted?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Crocker?
a question for the applicant. Is this part of a franchise, or is this, okay?
This
Just
is not a franchise.
You gotta get up in the mic.
Sorry,
here, yeah.
this is not a franchise. This is a personal, like my first business that I'm opening. I'm currently a JCU student, so I'm attending law, but I'm trying to open a bakery also. So this is a personal first business.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
it sounds like a real interesting business, but the parking, I think, is the crux of the issue. I count 56 seats shown on the plans. Now, I understand they're not all filled at the same time. And half of them, most of them are outside, so that may not be the issue too. But there's a lot of room in the lobby that you could end up with more tables. I'm not saying that you would, but I'm just trying to, if 56 and you only have 17 parking spaces and a couple of those are staff, you know, I can already see that doesn't work. So I'm just trying to understand the dynamics of this so that we.
Yeah, so typically, whenever outdoor dining is utilized, the indoor dining is usually not. So that's kind of the way that's figured. So I mean, really, there's a couple of 4 tops and 2 tops. I mean, the seating that we have here, this is not a table service again. So it's kind of a fast casual, get your
No, I
food and leave.
understand.
So
Yeah.
they're feeling that it's more of a quicker turnover, and not people sitting around and eating.
I mean, it's the kind of place I would go, you know, I'd probably go here. And there's a lot of individual seats for like one person drives in, one person goes in, one person sits down. You only have 17 and you have more seats than that in the
We
inside.
could explore the option of adjacent neighbors willing to lease
Well,
spaces or.
I would say that would be something that we would want you to look at, or at least see if that opportunity exists. And if you don't anticipate all these seats being used, do you need to have all that space, you know?
Yeah, well, circulation space is kind of key, but, really the inside, there's 8, 12, about 24 spaces, seats,
Yeah,
so that's not a lot,
I
so.
understand. But that just assumes more than, I mean, I don't know, if you just go to McDonald's and look at the cars going through, there's one person in almost every one of those cars. So I get the impression you're still interested in pursuing other possibilities for solving this parking situation. I mean,
Yes.
So I don't want to cut off the discussion about the building or the layout or anything, but it would seem to me that maybe we would end up tabling this so that you can investigate the parking aspect of it. I don't want to cut off anyone else's comments relative
But
to,
we'd have to come back for a final, correct?
Yep.
So that's. we'd
And
be
we generally give some architectural comments at this point too, because when you come back, so.
Yeah.
We could continue the conversation and talk about your building and.
Yes. So, I think it was suggested that there would be brick versus stone. And I think that's where we'd like to have the stone versus the brick.
Kathy?
Just a couple points for the commission to consider. We, under items, conditions 3 and 4, under preliminary site plan, applicants shall increase the amount of parking spaces provided or present evidence that reduced parking is warranted. So they would still need to come back with the final site plan and provide that information. And number 4 is to reevaluate the parking lot configuration. So those are conditions. Certainly at your discretion, if you prefer to table it, you can, but because as he just pointed out, there's another step in this review. He still has the opportunity to present some other ideas. The other thing, if they weren't to consider this a true restaurant table service, we would calculate the parking a little differently. It would be 1 space per 80 square feet minimum, which would bring it down to 30 space required. So if we were to treat it that way, because that's no drive-through, Same for a coffee house, no drive-through, is minimum is 1 space per 80 square feet. If we were to evaluate it that way rather than a true sit-down restaurant, which is more, it would alter the minimum parking.
And your plan had how many spaces? The city's plan, I'm sorry?
19.
19.
So it's still shy, but it's not 20 spaces deficient, it's
11.
It's 11.
11.
It's still shy.
And you
It's still
could work
shy.
on additional agreements.
Yeah, we could work on that.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify this, excuse me, they're looking for a preliminary approval for the site plan, but the site plan has these issues. Wouldn't it be better to table it than to try to approve something that we don't feel
discretion.
comfortable with? Okay, that's what I thought.
Is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I have
Mr. Berkowitz.
a couple of quick, if you could bring up the slide again with the staff exhibit for the parking. I do think that this tries to meet the guidelines of the village core, but I think one of the negative things that this does, and I think it's really just because we kept that same rectangular shape that you were shooting for, is that it really forces that outdoor dining right up at Menor Avenue. So I think if you're going to explore this where the parking is off to the side and the rear, maybe a different shape of the building where maybe that outdoor area is incorporated, let's call it within that, or it becomes something that surrounds it so that that gets pushed back a little bit from the streetscape. So I think that's one thing that really, to me, is a glaring issue. I do appreciate the fact that it gets, with the parking in the rear, you kind of get those things like the dumpster back out of the way and out of the view of the corridor. So I think those are two important things.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Tiedemann?
I'm the one who's always a stickler on the village core. And, to me, what that means is you try to build something new that has a vintage feel to it, right? That's why we like the red brick, because you got the school, you've got the village hall, you've got the Corning building next door. Your building would stick out like a sore thumb, in my opinion, in that area. Because then right next door, you have they're all over 100 years old. Right next door, you have an old gas station that over 100 years old. So I really would like to see something that looks a little older, that fits in with the neighborhood. If you look around even across the street, some of the newer construction was designed to look old.
So maybe not necessarily a brick, but if it was a maybe older stone-looking building?
Yeah, I mean, you see some of, if I recall, didn't the design guidelines have something about like wrought iron fences or I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I mean, again, a vintagey feel, so it kind of fits in and goes, it doesn't stick out, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, yeah, if there's a way to make it look a little more like it fits in.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick clarification on the stone, too. I think what Rich was trying to get at was that that would, brick or stone, if it was, for example, a cut stone like you tried to mention, that goes a long way toward the typical, which is sort of the stack stone, that really would stand out. So I think the cut stone might work, but again, all the other structures around are that brick, which I think that would be the number one goal or the choice anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there, with that city layout, the parking lot layout, is there a concern with the parking lot being closer to the residents at this point? Versus the back of the building? I guess it would be less activity the way we proposed it, that kind of protecting the resident.
Well, you have the 20-foot buffer that's maintained in the back, and in the property behind, there is no structure immediately behind. The house is actually, that's Case Avenue, I believe, so that is actually closer to Case Avenue. So the fact that you were to have the parking in the back, I think is okay. And the Corning building next door, all of their parking is in the back. There's really nothing there on the east side. The same for and actually behind the beverage store to the west, that parcel there that's, yeah, that Kayla has her cursor on, that's actually a B2 property. So it's really only that back parcel that we're considering. I guess another question too, when you were talking about that front patio, I mean, it's a pretty generous sized patio. I mean, is there, into Mr. Perkovich's point, I mean, you certainly can do some nice landscaping and buffering along the front there to kind of protect people that are trying to enjoy the patio. We do have a couple of patios along Menor Avenue that are very close. TJ's is a great example. And I think some people, when they look at it, they say, oh, it's a little too close. But they've done a nice job with again, proper screening and so forth. I think maybe they could comment on, because we were commenting that the patio is rather generous in size and it could even be a little bit reduced in size too. I mean, for as much use as you're gonna get out of a patio in Northeast Ohio, I guess is the other thing.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
I'm inclined not to want to vote on this. It's my personal opinion. I would like to move to table it. Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga,
Yes?
Mr. Crocker,
Yes.
Mr. Haddon,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti,
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. And you can work with Kathy, and you guys could, I think there's something that can be done here. A little bit of work.
All right, we'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Architectural reimage of a restaurant, Dunkin' Donuts, at 9584 Menor Avenue. Is that applicant here? Come on up, give us your name and address. Tell us a little bit about Dunkin' Donuts.
My name is Heidi DeMark, and I am from Phillips Mechanic Architects. And then the address is 142 East Market Street, Warren, Ohio.
My name is Gianna Ignazio, and I'm also with Phillips Mechanic Architects.
I think you're gonna have to spell that. Yeah.
My name,
Your last name, yeah.
Ignazio, Ignazio.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. This is an existing restaurant on Mentor Avenue, and it is a re-imaging for a 10-year remodel for Dunkin'. The image that you have up there has painting of the brick and some other signage, and we had sent our concession drawing. Do you still have that? No.
Hard copy?
Yeah. That should be an A5.2 in that set. There was a revised set that went out on 3/15.
You're gonna have to pull that mic a little closer to you. She's gonna.
You have a hard copy, we can put it up on the screen. I'm not sure that made it.
We actually brought hard copies for everyone,
Oh, great.
so
That's fantastic.
she'll grab those. Essentially, the owner has agreed not to paint the brick. He actually was thrilled. So the only portion that we would be painting would be the IFAS. We'd be adding the wood element, the cladding, obviously the signage, and the area above the drive-through. Here. You can have mine.
All right. Is that all?
Also, the site will be unchanged. Initially, we proposed to change a portion of the parking to angled parking, but you suggested or indicated that you would prefer us not to do that, and that's no problem.
This is a tricky lot.
Yes, it is.
It's the Dunkin' Donuts that I use.
Okay.
But I think people know it now, and they know how to get around.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
So,
Yes.
Kathy, is there anything from the administration?
I'd say we'd have to indicate that the specific drawing received this evening would be the approved, because they do show that they do show that they brick to remain as is, which was the administration's recommendation and consistent with the last approval of the Dunkin' that's across the street from the mall. And I would also note, sorry, this is not like the greatest. The parking lot, and I'm sorry if you said it, but the parking spaces, we wanted them to remain as they currently are configured rather than angled parking as was shown in the original submittal.
Yes, and in the revised submittal does have the parking remaining the same as it is now.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything from the commission members?
Just,
Mr.
Chairman?
Varga? Yeah, Mr. Varga.
Thank you for not painting the brick. I would have asked you to stain it in any case, but don't paint it.
Right.
I have just one question. I see what you're doing with most of the materials that were there before. It's not a big deal. I just want you to address maybe the fact that part of the top of the wall, the trim at the top, at one place you paint it this dark gray, and the other place it's white. And as I look around the building, like the long sides, is there a reason why you don't paint it all gray or paint it all white? I mean, what is it emphasizing? I'm not sure I get what that's doing.
The prototype of a regular Dunkin', if we were to build it from scratch now, uses both colors to kind of emphasize the entrance and the drive-through. So they generally use the white towards the front and then the gray towards the rear of the building. It doesn't come off quite as well as it would with a brand new structure in that, we're keeping the brick.
And you're adding those wood elements, which are.
Exactly,
I
yes.
understand. That's. Okay, okay.
Is there anything else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Phil?
Changing the signage from Dunkin' Donuts to Dunkin'.
Yeah.
Is the new sign a lighted sign or just lettering, raised lettering?
It's a lighted sign like the one we have now.
Okay.
Is there anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 5 conditions with the plans submitted today.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Mr. Rozzetti?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes,
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have a miscellaneous review to amend a conditional use permit at 8697 Tyler Boulevard. Please come up, give us your name and address. Tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, good evening, members. Mike Wildermuth, architect representing DCR Systems. I have with me tonight Mr. Michael Giarizzo, who's the president of DCR Systems, as well as Mr. Bill Brooks, who is the development manager for the project. The reason why we're here tonight is the expansion of the DCR property at 6897 Tyler Boulevard. It's an existing facility that takes care of high-end repairs as a body shop for many of the high-end cars, Mercedes, BMWs, and takes care of warranty service as well for those, and also repairs to the systems that go along with these cars when they get damaged. The recalibration requirements are very, very high tech. We do have some revised drawings here we just received yesterday from our engineer, from our site architect, sorry. Plans that detail the requests that were made for the landscaping. We just received that information from the city last week, and then I had our landscape architect take a quick look at it, and we generated a plan. So we can address those issues as well, since it is an item that is on your requirement list. The expansion of the site, of the building on site, entails approximately 9,000 square feet of additional building, including a mezzanine inside the building, along with the paving of the back lot, which has been up until this point just gravel. So it was the intention always of Mr. Giarrizzo to improve his lot with the development of this, and that was also a stated requirement from the city, that everything that's going on there is taken care of on an improved surface. The existing site retention facilities that are on site are such that they were designed for the way it was already being used, so it does not involve an increase in any way of the requirements. And I believe that's already been reviewed by the engineer, city engineer. The other item that that comes into play here as well is, in developing the site, is the number of parking spaces is increased based on the zoning requirements of 4 per 1,000 square feet for this type of facility, that being an auto repair facility. We are required to have 93 parking spaces associated with the building in the new format, and that we actually do have 150 on the site, but in conversation again with the city site folks, we determined that the 93 is what we are to be held for our landscaping and site issues, and the other 57 or so spots are essentially storage at the back of the site, and they're not subject to the same kind of landscape requirements. So that's what is represented on the plans that you have in front of you. We are operating under an existing conditional use permit that dates back to 2005, and we're just wanting to expand that CUP to reflect the change on the building. So any questions you might have? Mr. Giarrizzo is here as well to answer this.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, they've addressed all of our concerns.
Anything from the commission members? Mr. Varga.
Chairman, you've got two pretty hefty mechanical units on the ground next to the building?
Which will be screened? That was your question, yes.
We're going in the right direction, yes. What materials might you screen those with?
More than likely, they would be just either a wood fence or a something a little bit more natural looking, rather than a steel post and plastic slat kind of a thing. I would lean away from masonry because there's nothing associated with masonry on this building whatsoever. So I think we're into the category of maybe wood. A wood barricade.
Yeah, I guess you might want, since it's, both these locations appear to be near a brick wall.
Yeah.
Right? That you, at least if the design and the color of the wood would maybe be the same.
Blend
as
into the
as
color of the
brick,
building, yeah,
color of the
we'd
brick.
match the color of the
Something
building,
like that.
absolutely. I might add too that the addition to the building is going to identically match what the existing building is. We're just basically blowing straight back, as you can see here, the picture. We're going straight back with the same kind of material as the original building. It's a Varco Pruden or a Butler style building that was built in 1999, I believe, or something like that. And Mr. D'Arizzo took it over in 2005 is when he got his original CUP.
And just for clarification, there is no rooftop units on this building?
There are no rooftop units. Now, the building is not actually structured to support rooftop units. It's a lightweight style, metal prefabricated building. They don't usually put rooftop units on the top of those guys.
Right. So your doors and your frames and your vents and stuff like louvers are all going to match the ones that already
Everything matches
exist?
what'll be there. Windows and things like that that are up in the panels will match. All the doors will match the existing
Color
overhead
and-
doors, et cetera. We're
color
going to
materials.
basically duplicate what's already there.
Gotcha.
It'll look like it was always there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Dave?
In paving this additional area to the north of the building, how does that change your stormwater collection system?
I think I mentioned that earlier. It does not affect, because the site was designed to have a gravelled area in the back, and all the runoff there has been calculated into the existing storm, which is on the front side up by Tyler.
Have you
There's a large basin.
Okay, thank you. Have you considered like a pervious asphalt to help with the drainage as well? Or is it just going to be?
You probably could. I mean, it's actually set up to be concrete paved right now, so it's a hard surface. Pervious surface could be, as long as it doesn't kill the budget. It's a little bit more expensive to put in a pervious surface. I know.
Understood, but you've taken
People
into,
love to
you've
have
taken into
that.
account the runoff, though?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Nothing else.
Thank you. Is there anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 8 items. The 8th item being ground-mounted mechanical units shall be screened to match the color of the existing building.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll bring a greeting from the Willoughby Planning Commission, of which I am chairman. Thanks again.
Kathy, do you have anything?
Nothing else.
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?